When she entered the combat arena, 5 alien cadets were already laughing. By the time the 8th second passed, none of them were standing. The arena was metallic, cold, and humming with a low-frequency thrum that echoed off the titanium walls of the Galactic Unified Academy's combat dome. Dozens of species trained here. Elites from 17 systems. Recruits with claws, wings, armor, venom sacs, and in one case, 3 brains. And today, Earth had sent a girl named Ava Cole. She stood at the far end of the prep bay, adjusting her Academy-issued gloves, humming softly to herself as a holographic display rotated above her head. A reptilian cadet, Torvik, clicked his talons against the floor and squinted at her stats. Height: 5 feet 5 inches. No carapace. No exoskeleton. Muscle density. That can't be right. Beside him, Ulzar, an insectoid with multifaceted eyes and a mind linked to a brood sister 3 planets away, snorted. Her file lists her combat classification as civilian. What is this, a charity match? They all laughed. Veeply, the rodent-like analyst of the group, zoomed into Ava's profile and chittered. Her neural reaction speed is slower than Zentha's on a sleep cycle. Terrans must be severely outdated. Zenth said nothing. The gray-skinned cadet simply watched. Always watching. His gaze didn't settle on the file, it lingered on Ava. She smiled at the group, perfectly cordial. I can sit this out if it makes anyone nervous, she offered politely, voice light, friendly. No hard feelings. I know Earth's reputation hasn't exactly reached the stars. Please, Torvik scoffed. You'll be on the mat before you finish blinking. A green light flicked on above the entrance. The sparring match was about to begin. The 5 alien cadets entered the arena like conquerors. They activated their regulation limit augmentations, shock pads, inertial dampeners, kinetic reflex boosts. Torvik even cracked his neck, theatrically. Ava walked in last, hands folded behind her back. No enhancements. No armor. Just a faint smile, and a glint in her eye that most missed. The arena countdown began. 3, 2, 1. Zenth didn't move. Torvik did. Fast. He lunged in with a sweeping tail strike aimed at Ava's side. She stepped aside. No warning. No effort. Just a gentle pivot. His tail slammed into the floor, cracked tile. Before he could recover, her palm snapped up under his chin with precise upward force. The sound he made wasn't a growl. It was a whimper. Second one down in 2 seconds. Ulzar came next, bounding forward in erratic zigzags, compound eyes tracking her every twitch. He struck with 4 arms at once. Ava dropped low, twisted, and grabbed 2 of his limbs mid-air. A shift of weight, a sharp twist, and the insectoid cadet crumpled in a heap, 2 limbs temporarily paralyzed by nerve pressure. She looked over her shoulder. That joint under the 3rd thorax ring? Very sensitive. You might want to ice that. 3 seconds. Veeply panicked. He launched a barrage of light dazzle pulses and tried to flank her. Ava didn't move until he got close. Then, she slipped behind him, caught the back of his neck, and tapped a nerve cluster. He collapsed like someone had unplugged his spine. Koresh, a brute from the Volthon system, bellowed and charged like a rhino with thrusters. He was fast, strong, furious. Ava didn't evade. She stepped into his charge, caught his wrist, turned, and sent him hurtling over her shoulder. He hit the mat with a crash that shook the stands. 6 seconds. Torvik was getting up. Or trying. Ava sighed. Please stay down, Torvik. It's less embarrassing. He snarled and lunged again. She swept his legs. Torvik hit the floor. Again. 8 seconds. The silence in the arena was heavy, stunned. Zenth hadn't moved the entire time. Neither had Ava's smile. 5 cadets groaned on the floor. One stood untouched. The observers watching through the glass, a mix of species and instructors, stared like they'd witnessed a glitch in reality. Ava knelt next to Koresh, tapping his arm gently. That landing looked rough. Do you need medical, or just a hug? Koresh groaned. What are you? She tilted her head. Human. Didn't you read the file? The infirmary bots rushed in. Stretchers hovered past. Torvik wouldn't meet her eyes. Lazar muttered something about hallucinations. Vipli kept asking if gravity was malfunctioning. Zenth still didn't speak. She brushed dust from her sleeves and turned to the instructors. Do I still need to finish the hand-to-hand assessment? No one answered. Back in the cadet locker hall, Zenth approached her quietly. He was calm, unreadable. You fought as if you had full biometric analysis of us. Ava offered a small smile. I skimmed some public databases. Zenth narrowed his eyes. You're not here to study. You're here to evaluate. Now, Zenth, she said gently, that sounds very conspiratorial. He didn't blink. She walked past him, paused, and added over her shoulder, be careful reading too deeply into things. Curiosity is how Terrans usually find volunteers. As she disappeared around the corner, Zenth stood frozen. He hadn't laughed at her file. He had read it. And the part that disturbed him wasn't what it said, it was what it didn't. The medbay still smelled like melted gel packs and antiseptic foam. Torvik lay on his side, groaning something about physics violations, while Vipli whispered conspiracy theories into a biosling. Lazar hadn't spoken since his limbs stopped twitching. The only one not receiving treatment was Zenth. He sat on the corner bench, posture relaxed, but his mind was sprinting. He replayed the combat footage, again. And again. 8 seconds. She hadn't just defeated them. She had known where they'd be before they moved. She predicted foot placement, limb trajectory, even momentary hesitation. That wasn't training. That was pattern mastery. The footage paused on Ava's face mid-fight, calm, effortless. She didn't blink once. Across campus, Ava Cole stirred instant coffee in a repurposed nutrient beaker. The academy cafeteria didn't serve anything close to Earth-style roast. So she improvised. She had borrowed a molecular heater, snuck in off-world caffeine extract, and was now watching the concoction swirl like it owed her rent. Instructor Gortash approached, still holding a datapad awkwardly as if it might bite. His tusks flexed as he tried to sound official. Cadet Cole, your performance in the combat exercise exceeded parameters. Ava sipped and smiled. I was just warming up. He blinked twice. Your file said you had no field experience. She shrugged. Oh, I don't. Officially. Gortash hesitated. We are recalibrating your future placements. She nodded politely. Of course. Please let me know if I should tone it down. I'd hate to injure morale. The instructor didn't answer. He simply turned and walked off, muttering something in his native tongue about smiling assassins. By midday, the alien cadets were talking again. Mostly in private. Mostly in confusion. Vipli cornered Zenth near the observatory dome. She didn't use a single enhancement, he whispered, fluffed in agitation. You saw the telemetry. No energy spikes. No neuroboosts. Nothing. Just bones and muscles. Terran bones. Zenth didn't respond. He was watching Ava again, this time from the upper level, as she stood in the central plaza, sketching something on a datapad. Maybe we underestimated their kind, Vipli muttered. Zentha's eyes narrowed. No. We misunderstood their kind. That evening, a new event was announced. The Nexus Drill. A multi-species team survival test in the artificial wildlands dome. 48 hours. No weapons. No instructors. Just instincts. The drop shuttle hissed as it lowered onto the jungle terrain inside the biodome. Massive trees loomed like ancient sentinels, foliage thick, the air humid. Alien cadets adjusted packs and scanned their sectors. Ava stretched lightly. No gear. No boots. Just academy canvas shoes, breathable sleeves, and a relaxed grin. Torvik gave her a wide berth. Koresh refused eye contact. Only Zenth approached. "This is no arena," he said quietly. "It's not a test of skill. It's pressure. Fear. Weak links." Ava tilted her head. "Sounds like a vacation with my cousins." He stared. She offered him a protein bar. He didn't take it. Hours passed. The dome wasn't designed to kill, but it would bruise egos fast. A fungal mist triggered Vipli's allergies. Koresh tried punching through a nest and got stung. Lzar lost one of his hive brother lynx and began muttering to himself. The team was slipping into chaos. Ava didn't lead. She didn't need to. She built the first fire with stones and friction. Found a safe water stream. Scouted 2 paths without being seen. She shared calmly. Asked politely. Never gave orders. But her suggestions kept getting followed. Zenth noticed it first. "She's manipulating the group dynamic." Torvik scoffed. "She's just helpful." Zenth replied coldly. "She's efficient. You're just grateful you're not unconscious again." Later that night, alarms sounded. Not from their group, from the dome system itself. Rogue drones activated. Actual combat-grade units. Live ordnance. Hard-coded aggression. Supposedly impossible. "Someone hacked the scenario," Vipli shouted. "These aren't part of the simulation." Torvik panicked. Koresh rushed in blind and was nearly clipped by a stun blast. Ava stepped between them. "Vipli, climb that ridge. Get eyes on the next valley." He blinked. "Why would I? I need to know if they're flanking." "You're lightest. Go." He moved without thinking. "Torvik, grab the branch with the red moss and drag it behind you. It throws off their heat sensors." "How do you?" "Just do it." "Zenth, with me." They followed. Without debate. Without hesitation. Ava crouched near the clearing, eyes locked on the advancing drones. She timed their pulses, mapped the movement, redirected her team like chess pieces. Drones fell into traps. One exploded under a rockslide. Another tangled in redirected vines. Ava's commands were calm. Surgical. Koresh, now breathing heavily, asked mid-skirmish, "How are you so calm?" She answered while tightening a vine snare. "Because I already solved this once, 2 hours ago. I just hoped it wouldn't come to this." "What do you mean?" "I studied the override patterns in the dome's interface back in orientation. I noticed the drones had dormant aggression scripts. This was always a risk." Zenth stared at her. "You suspected an ambush?" She met his gaze. "I was hoping for one." By dawn, the field was quiet. 4 drones disabled. No injuries. No retreat. The team sat around the fire, panting, wide-eyed. Torvik finally broke the silence. "You planned this." Ava poked at the fire. "I prepared for it." Vipli whispered, "You're not a cadet." Ava's smile returned, but it no longer looked soft. "I'm here to learn. Just different things." Zenth looked away, brow furrowed. He'd seen her file. It didn't list any combat record. No field ops. No intelligence clearance. But he remembered something now. A black bar. A classified annotation. And a note. "Observe. Do not interfere." The debrief room smelled like ozone and scorched moss. Screens flickered with infrared captures of the rogue drones Ava had led them through. Even the command AI hesitated to process the footage. No protocols had authorized live munitions. No simulations were scheduled. And yet it had happened. Zenth sat motionless in the back row, eyes narrowed, arms folded. He didn't trust this silence. Not from the Academy, and certainly not from Earth's representative. Across from him, Ava sat in the center chair like she didn't feel the tension. Elbows on the table. Calm. Smiling faintly. A quiet force that unsettled everyone more than the drones ever had. Instructor Gortash finally spoke. You anticipated the drone activation. Ava nodded. The maintenance records were sloppy. They still had hostile code. Redundant safety layers were removed 2 weeks ago. The instructor grunted. You knew and didn't report it? I wasn't sure. And if I reported it, it might have been scrubbed before we saw how bad the breach was. This was not your decision to make. Ava sipped from her metal canteen. You're right. But I made it anyway. No apology. No defiance either. Just fact. The room shifted. Authority tilted. Subtly. Gortash glanced at the command tablet. You acted like an officer. Not a cadet. Ava smiled wider. Some habits die hard. The words landed heavy. No one laughed. That night, Zenth confronted her in the training deck. It was dark. Unlit. Only the white lines of the sparring floor glowed faintly under their boots. I ran your name through restricted channels, he said. Ava didn't look up. She was adjusting a practice dummy's arm joint. Sounds illegal, she said mildly. I found nothing. No history. No military chain. Just one signature I traced back to the Terran Diplomatic Observation Corps. Never heard of them, she said, still not meeting his eyes. They don't exist. She looked up finally. Exactly. He stared at her, unsure whether he was impressed or horrified. Probably both. Ava finished adjusting the dummy and stepped into position. I'm not here to harm anyone, Zenth. You already have. Just by being here. She shrugged. Then maybe they shouldn't have laughed. The following morning, the Academy launched a surprise simulation. Operation Null Horizon. Multi-team squads. Full-range scenarios. Mixed objectives. No warning. Ava's squad was dropped into the outer canyons of the Valtor simulation range, a hostile wasteland with low oxygen, erratic terrain, and seismic fault lines that triggered randomly. She wasn't the designated leader. Torvik was. He lasted 20 minutes before falling into a ravine chasing a decoy signal. Koresh attempted to assume command but focused entirely on brute tactics. Within an hour, the squad was lost, exposed, and one faulty decision away from full elimination. Ava didn't argue. She didn't take over. She simply started solving problems faster than they could create them. She predicted the fault line pattern and built an alternate route using debris. She reprogrammed their pathfinding beacon with false coordinates to mislead competing squads. She even negotiated with an AI-generated pirate patrol by mimicking an emergency distress protocol in 3 different languages. Veeply stared at her in open awe. You studied all this? I read the manual, she said, checking drone altitude paths overhead. No one reads the manual, he whispered. Exactly, she replied. Zentha's team was 1 canyon over, following a carefully plotted line based on orbital scans. His leader, Command Cadet Ron, dismissed his concerns about Ava. She's just efficient, Ron said. Terrans are always overcompensating. Zenth didn't respond. He was watching the patterns again. Watching Ava's path. Her positioning. Her decisions. She wasn't moving through the simulation. She was moving the simulation around her. At hour 5, all remaining squads received a broadcast. Final objective activated. Reach the black site beacon. First team to arrive wins strategic control of simulation. Warning: beacon is under live fire threat. Panic followed. Squads scrambled. Orders broke down. Units sprinted into ambushes. Ava's squad paused. She looked toward the jagged hill crest with the black site beacon barely visible under heat shimmer. "It's not about who gets there first," she said. "It's who gets there unseen." Koresh frowned. "Then what's the play?" She knelt and traced a path in the dirt. "We let them fight over the prize. Then we claim it." She timed it perfectly. Zentha's squad reached the beacon seconds after Ron's team engaged the perimeter defense. Drones opened fire. Blaster bursts lit the canyon. But Ava's group moved through a collapsed tunnel network below, abandoned from a prior simulation. She had reactivated its systems hours earlier, quietly, with a bypass key she forged using repurposed surveillance code. While everyone fought above, her squad walked beneath the battlefield in silence. At the base of the beacon tower, they emerged undetected. She climbed the tower alone, linked her tablet to the system, and issued a priority override. Control transfer confirmed. Squad 7, Ava Cole. Simulation terminated. Command didn't even try to cover their shock. Instructors murmured. Logs were reviewed. Again. Cadets stood silent in the debrief room, watching Ava lean casually against the wall, sipping water like it had been a leisurely stroll. Zenth stood in the back, eyes fixed on her. Instructor Gortash approached slowly. "Do you know what you've done?" "Proved the simulation is broken," she said. "It wasn't designed to be exploited like that." "Then you should fix it before someone worse than me tries." The instructor exhaled, tusks twitching. "Why are you really here?" She set the bottle down. Her expression turned still. "Because you needed to remember what humans are capable of. And because we needed to know if this academy was still safe." Silence. One of the other instructors spoke for the first time. "There was no threat here." Ava met his eyes. "There was no threat. Until I got here." The academy's command tower wasn't built for war. It was built for confidence. Polished floors, transparent domes, planetary view. A place where top brass could oversee the future of galactic peace and sip filtered nebula tea while pretending nothing bad ever happened. That illusion ended the moment Earth activated Phase 2. Zenth stood before a holomap glowing in pulsing red. Every command terminal had gone dark, except the one Ava had accessed. She wasn't even pretending anymore. "I warned them," Zenth muttered. "We all saw her. We just didn't understand what we were looking at." Beside him, Instructor Gortash stared in pale silence as Ava's override command echoed from the beacon tower. Simulation concluded. Hostile infiltration vector confirmed. Reporting to Sol Command. Sol Command. Not the Academy. Not the Galactic Council. Earth's chain of command. Active only during wartime conditions. Gortash finally spoke, his voice uneven. "What is she?" Zenth didn't hesitate. "The canary in the coal mine." Ava walked alone down the corridor outside the simulation bay, now silent and dark. Her boots echoed softly. As she passed the cadet lounge, Veepley stepped out. He looked like he hadn't slept in a century. "You used us," he said quietly. Ava didn't slow. "I protected you." "You lied." She paused then, halfway past him. "I withheld information," she corrected. "Big difference." Veepley's fur bristled. "You pretended to be a cadet. You beat us in drills. Led us into real combat. You turned a test into a trap." She turned, finally meeting his eyes. "I didn't set the trap, Veepley. I walked into it first. I just made sure you weren't crushed when it closed." The council was already in emergency session by the time Ava arrived at the briefing dome. 4 Admiral-class commanders stood around the table, flanked by military aides from half a dozen species. The Trinal strategist glared with all 5 of its eyes. The Yethari warborn pulsed its threat glands in confusion. Even the usually smug Velkai were visibly rattled. Gortash introduced her flatly. Terran delegate. Ava Cole. Someone muttered, "We thought she was a student." Ava stepped forward, not waiting for permission. "I was. Briefly." The Yethari slammed a hand on the table. "Explain why your file was falsified." "Because humans don't like revealing their cards before the game starts," she replied, folding her arms. "That's usually how we win." The room bristled. "Win what?" barked the Trinal. Ava leaned forward. "Everything." Zenth was watching from the observation deck above, half hidden behind a privacy screen. He could feel it happening, what he'd feared from the start. Earth hadn't come to learn. Earth had come to measure the galaxy's pulse. And now they were taking its temperature with one hand and loading a revolver with the other. In the council chamber, the Velkai diplomat raised his voice. "You used this academy as a staging ground." Ava nodded. "Yes. Because this is where the cracks show first. You've centralized too much. Trusted your systems too blindly. When the academy gets infiltrated, the next stop is your fleet. You exposed our weaknesses." "Better I did it," she said simply, "than someone who wanted to exploit them." One of the aides tapped a holopad. "There's movement on the outer sectors. Pirate signals, but the signature matches known mercenary fleets. Paid actors." Ava turned to the group. The academy wasn't just infiltrated. It was bait. A long silence followed. Then she said the thing that truly froze the room. Phase 3 is already in motion. Outside the dome, orbital turrets realigned. From deep orbit, hidden Terran stealth ships decloaked, just enough to be seen on wide-spectrum radar. No weapons fired. No broadcasts. Just presence. A reminder. Zenth watched as panic blossomed into realization. Earth wasn't waiting for permission. They were done being underestimated. He found her again later, alone in the upper corridor, looking down at the training yard where cadets used to joke about her size. "You wanted us to laugh," he said. Ava didn't turn. "Yes." "Why?" "Because if you're laughing," she said softly, "you're not preparing. And if you're not preparing, we can watch. Learn. Understand who you are without masks." Zenth walked to her side. "You're not soldiers." "No," she said. "We're predators that got tired of hunting each other. Now we're wondering what's out there that thinks it can hunt us." He exhaled. "What happens now?" She turned to him, that same faint smile. "Now you decide. You either work with us, or prepare to explain to your governments why Earth moved faster than your sensors could track." The next day, Ava Cole was gone. No transfer log. No departure record. Her quarters were stripped clean. Her file auto-deleted. But a single note was left in the locker room, etched into the back of a ration pack. "Don't worry. We're already among the next batch." 3 days later, Zenth received a secure data packet. Inside, a list of every security hole Ava had exposed in their systems. A second list showed the Academy's weaknesses Ava hadn't used, but noted in red. At the bottom was a final line, handwritten. "We're not here to conquer. We're here to make sure someone else doesn't. And if that fails, you won't even hear us coming." Final line, epilogue style. Zenth saved the file, then deleted it. And for the first time in his life, he understood the phrase the humans used far too often with far too much confidence. "Trust me."